Okay, let's talk about worldviews. So here I'm kind of just working through some ideas, speaking aloud to kind of help me think and clarify my positions here. So if I go wrong anywhere, if I make some sort of a logical mistake, please tell me. Okay, this started by me thinking about why it was that atheists come off as arrogant so often. Not all atheists. I follow quite a few atheists on YouTube and like what they have to say. I'm just talking about how, in general, it's also kind of a common perception of atheists that they come off as kind of arrogant. And it seems like part of their worldview is that people in the past, their worldviews were ignorant, based on feelings and superstition and belief. And now that we've come up with this new worldview, that we've X'd out all the belief in it now, and now we're left with just a worldview that's now focused only on facts and science and not based on beliefs or feelings. And therefore, our worldview as an atheist is superior to the worldview of somebody who maybe believes in a deity or a personal God or some supernatural force or something. Somehow or another, their worldview is lesser and they can laugh at it, mock at it or something. Well, the thing that always got me about that is that I've never met anyone whose worldview was not based on beliefs and feelings and things that they can't prove. If you just cut out a belief in a deity, it doesn't mean that the rest of your worldview is now suddenly free from feelings and beliefs. Let's look at some beliefs that I think most everyone, including most atheists, believe, even though they're not based on facts. Okay, everyone is equal. That's a very common belief that in the Western world and in many parts of the world, but especially maybe in the Western world, everyone is equal and therefore should be treated equally. Despite the fact that that is clearly not the case, that everyone is equal. You take any two people and compare them, and one of them is stronger, one of them is fatter, one of them is healthier, one of them is smarter, one of them is more musical, one of them is better at this and the other one's better at that, and they are in no way equal. Any two people on the planet. So it's clearly not true, and yet people defend this worldview fiercely, even with groups of people. I think it's pretty clearly accepted that European Jews have the highest IQ, are the most intelligent. I think it's pretty clear that Asians are, it's not just a stereotype, but Asians in general are good at math. I think the top 5 countries in the world at math, who are good at math, are all Asian. Even poor countries like Vietnam, do much better than developed countries who are not Asian. And I think it'd be very hard to make a case that West Africans do not excel in track and field type sports. So here you have it. It's just in your face. It's obvious. It's not true. And yet, people defend it fiercely. And you could even have someone who's mocking someone who has a belief in a creator. And at the same time, they would get really angry and fiercely defend their belief that everyone is equal. And even in this video, I'm probably going to get shit from people saying that, how dare you say everyone's not equal? But see, that's a view that I actually hold. I believe that there is something beyond the facts and details, an underlying humanity that all people share, that is this equalizing force, that everyone has that underlying humanity, and therefore they deserve that respect as an equal, almost like a spiritual equal. And yet, the fact of the situation is that nobody's equal. Okay. So that's kind of a strange belief. Let's just start with that. Okay, let's look at another one. Basically, the idea that the meaning of life, the purpose of life, is the pursuit of science and facts. I think a lot of people, including a lot of atheists, hold this worldview. And I mean, I see that. I think that that is true in its own way. But also Buddhists, they believe that the meaning of life and the way to solve the ills of humanity is kind of the opposite. It's quieting the mind and then allowing this benevolent truth to enter and shine through you and to shine that peace and compassion out into the world to fix the world problems. That essentially the world's problems will not be fixed through thinking, but by quieting the mind as a way of allowing this to come through. And so there you go. That's two very different worldviews. And so often it seems like when I'm listening to Richard Dawkins, who I like, but he's so caught up in this worldview. But why is the worldview of the Buddhists wrong? You know, why is that worse? Or okay, so let's go to another one. That our relationship, this is a worldview, that my relationship with my children is meaningful and valuable. Now this is something that basically almost every parent is a big part of their worldview, if not the biggest part of their worldview, is the meaning and value that they find in their children. And yet you could look at it from a science and facts point of view and say that that meaning and that love that you feel towards your child is just an evolutionary development to try to ensure that your DNA and genetic material pass on to another generation. And well, that's definitely true on some level. I think that even people who'd say, my worldview is based on science and facts, not on beliefs and feelings, if you tried to tell them that their child is basically a genetic, their love that they feel for their child is a genetic trick to get them to sacrifice their work and their time and their happiness in a lot of ways to propagate your genetic material. If you're just looking at it from a cold analytical point of view and you're holding the screaming infant in your arms, you would just throw it out the window. I mean, think of how hard you have to work and how much energy it takes to raise this infant, and what would be the logical explanation for not just getting rid of it and being like, oh my God, you know. And yet that's just shocking to any parent. I mean, their worldview is not based around that logical reality of how much suffering and sacrifice that they'll be required to raise this little infant. Okay, so the problem here is that it seems like we're saying that everyone's worldview is just totally up to their feeling, and that everyone, it seems too airy-fairy, too woo, and I mean, I see that, right? But obviously we have to make laws in our society based on facts. We can't make laws based on feelings. And a lot of the problem that I see with the left today, is that they're trying to weaponize worldviews based on feelings. Basically, like, I feel that you're an asshole, and therefore that's true. As opposed to just saying, this is my worldview and how I see things, and then trying to learn from each other, and No, it's basically like, because I feel this, it is true, and then therefore I must act on it, and if you disagree with me, but it's so clear that someone else could have another feeling and a worldview. One thing that I think when this is messy, it's messy, but one thing that I think when I hear feminists talking about the epidemic of violence against women, and crime against women and harassment against women, is you can empirically see that men are more affected by crime. Men are the victims of murder and robbery and assault more than women. They are. I think there was a study showing that men were more likely to be harassed on the internet, but yet women feel more frightened of being victimized by crime or more affected by being harassed on the internet. And therefore, it's an epidemic against them because they feel that way. Whenever I hear that, I always think about how here where I live in Thailand, the vast majority of the people are scared of ghosts. I'm going to guess, put an estimate at like 75% of the people are scared of ghosts. And probably at least 2/3 of them think that ghosts are real. Some of them are scared, but then when asked, they'd probably say, oh no, I don't really think they're real. But, so does that mean that there is an epidemic of ghost harassment in Thailand? We better call the social justice warriors to come over and solve this ghost, attack on Thai people? So obviously not. So what do we do then, right? So, do we say that everyone's worldview is then equal because that's what they believe? I say no. I say no to that. Why? How? If someone says that women should not be able to walk around alone or show any skin, or someone says that you have to kill and eat the people in the neighboring town when bad weather comes, because that's the only way to stop the evil magic that they put the rain on your town. And obviously not. But what do we use to defend our worldview as a society? What argument do we put forth? Let me see if I can voice what I think is a key worldview in the West. And that is that we all in the society have God-given rights. Not rights that are given by the government, but God-given rights. Divinely imbued by our Creator. And the government has no right to take those rights away. My friend Fenton, who's a really great guy and is far left, he's Canadian, maybe not so far left, but we were having a conversation and he said that the government gives you your rights. And I was like, whoa, no, that's not how it works. I don't know about Canada, but that's not our model here. And, they're God-given rights. And how do we defend that if we slip into this spiral of everyone's worldview is based on feelings? I'm not sure, but maybe they are God-given rights. I don't know. Is that so crazy to say? Maybe they are. And maybe the success that we see in why so many people want to live like that. Not everybody. Don't make the mistake thinking that everybody in the world wants to live like that. There are a lot of people who want to live under theocracy. But I don't know, is that so crazy to say? I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and he talked about us talking through your ideas. That by talking and expressing your ideas and your views, that's a way that people can actually work through their ideas and really understand what it is their argument is and what they're thinking. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. If there's anything that I wanted to say that I possibly forgot to add here, maybe I'll do another video at some point. But if I'm wrong, if I don't understand something here, please point that out to me. I'd be happy to hear your views and your responses to this. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.